If Islam Makhachev defeats Ian Garry to defend his welterweight championship, in my opinion, he will not be the GOAT of UFC, but rather he will be number 3 of all time in the UFC behind John Jones and Georges St. Pierre. Now, people might say, oh, P.S. he should be the GOAT because he's gonna have a 17-fight win streak, the longest in UFC history, surpassing Anderson Silva. So, win streaks are impressive, but they mean nothing if it's not accompanied by elite wins, which I define as beating the best of your time without asterisks. And you might counter that saying, oh, but the best of the time in the olden day will not stack up to today's standards. The sport has evolved. Competition is crazy now. You guys are arguing based on shoulda, woulda, couldas and are arrogant, thinking that your fight picks will always be right no matter what. If every single week you get a fight, 2 fights, 3 fights wrong, what's to make you think that you cannot predict an old gen versus new gen fighter wrong? You see, my criteria does not go off hypotheticals and predictions. I give each fighter a fighter's chance when I give them a GOAT list and assume that anyone can beat anyone. And I find it kind of silly if you want to hold to the claim that your prediction will always be right. Because when I debate new gen versus old gen, you will say no, new gen will beat old gen because they'll do so and so and so and so. And I can argue back saying old gen will beat new gen by doing so and so and so and so and so. These arguments are pointless because we will never know who's right. And the problem with these debates is that you can never know who's right, and anything can happen in a fight. So stop arguing based on shoulda, woulda, couldas. Number 2, you guys might say, oh, but Islam defended his second belt against someone who was in their prime, like Ian Garry, because GSP didn't do it and Jones beat an old man Stipe. That's pretty fair, but again, doesn't matter unless you have so many elite wins beating the best of your time. After beating Ian Garry, yes, he'll have a 17-fight win streak, but if you look at the resume, who did he beat? Short notice Dan Hooker, who is okay, it's a good win. Arman Sarukian, it was his debut, he was pre-developed, not in his prime, not the best of his time. Hinata Moicano, it's a good win, but it's a short notice Moicano. And Islam to it, so it's a good win. Volkanovski, first time, a featherweight moving up. It's an elite win, but an all-time win. Because it's a guy who was trying out new waters, going up to new weight class, and Islam did not beat him at his own turf because Volk did not prove himself to be the second best of all time at lightweight. Because you could have made a case that Charles could have beaten him or Arman could have beaten him. He did not prove to be the second best lightweight. And you might say, oh, he's number 1 pound for pound. Pound for pound is subjective ranking based by media members who assume that what you do in one weight class will become the exact same weight in other weight classes, but pound for pound does not account for the fact that some fighters or many fighters have a good fit in one weight class, but not another one. So looking at Islam Makhachev's resume, who did he beat that was best of his time? Charles Oliveira. Volk, yes, but with an asterisk with elite, so 2 elite wins. Dustin Poirier, I'd say it's elite, even though passive prime still elite. Moicano, Volk second time doesn't really count because short notice for Volk on 10 days notice. So I'm gonna have 3 elite wins. And then Jack Della Maddalena won a second belt there. And then the 5th one, Ian Machado Garry. So we'll have, 5 or 6 elite wins, feeding 5 guys who are the best of their time without asterisks. GSP, how many guys best of his time did he beat? Carlos Condit, best of his time. Matt Hughes twice. BJ Penn twice. Sean Shirk, Michael Bisping, let's say, oh, Bisping, he dethroned Luke Rockhold after beating Chris Weidman, who beat Silva. So let's not make fun of Michael Bisping. And want a second belt and more defenses. You might say, oh, but title defenses are skewed stats. Listen. So is win streak then, because win streak in a modern era is easier to get, because in the modern era, they gradually build you up to fight progressively hard competition so that you don't get rushed and you don't feel psychologically burdened to face the best of your time early on. They give you time to mature and hone your craft. And plus there's more rut testing now, so you don't have fighters fighting unclean. So in this modern era, it's easier to get the win streak, in my opinion, easier. And you might say, oh, but the best of the time, you become after a few fights. Listen, even if nowadays, which I agree that it is less likely nowadays to become a top 5 than back then because there are fewer fighters. The fact that after a few fights or so you're fighting a top guy is giving me psychological pressure on you, because knowing after a few fights you're fighting the best of your time, regardless of how many fighters there are, there's psychological pressure. Whereas in modern era, you don't have the psychological pressure or as much, because they build you up gradually so that, like a staircase, baby steps to the bigger goal, so that you can become more mature and the top guy will become a smaller jump than back in the olden day where you'd be fighting a few guys then rush to the top guy. So talking about win streak is much easier. And GSP is going to be higher because he beat more guys who, in my opinion, were the best of his time with more defenses. Islam will beat 5 guys best of his time without asterisks. And John Jones beat many guys who were the best of their times, like Lyoto Machida, Daniel Cormier, Gustafsson, Cyril Gane, more than 5. So the reason why I'm going to have Islam below them is because 1, less defenses, and 2, he'll have beaten less guys who were the best of his times than Jones and GSP. And again, with the whole narrative that the best guys of GSP and Jones' time won't become top guys today, is all hypotheticals, all shoulda, woulda, couldas, and I do not make my GOAT list based on probabilities and hypotheticals and predictions, because I believe that in a fight, anything can happen. Yes, I have my predictions, I have my probabilities, but I go by data and facts. I'm an engineer, I go by the facts and the data, and I assume that any fighter can be anyone on any given day. So, because you guys can argue saying, oh no, the new gen will smoke the old gen because they do so and so and so. Again, I can argue back and we'll never know. So if you guys can understand my GOAT list criteria, which is that an elite wins best of their time, and I assume that anyone can be anyone, then my GOAT list will be valid, and you can say that Jones and GSP are higher than Islam all time. So yes, while Islam's going to be better, if he has more elite wins, which is beating guys best of their time, then I'll have him the GOAT. But after UFC 330 beating Ian Garry, yes, he'll have the highest win streak, which means nothing if it's not accompanied by elite wins in an era where it's easier to have win streaks. But he'll only have, 5 or 6 elite wins, beating 5 or 6 guys who are best of their time without asterisks, because Volk, yes, best of his time, but Volk was a featherweight moving up to lightweight, where he proved not that he was second best, because you could have made a case that Armand and Charles beat him. He didn't go to featherweight and beat Volk in his turf, whereas GSP beat guys in their turfs and beat guys with best of their time. Same with John Jones. So get more elite wins, Islam, then you'll be the GOAT.